Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, over the last few weeks and months, I have written several articles over at Cyber News recently about how hybrid working and the rise of it, we all need to think outside of the office now. And I've also spoken and written about the Metaverse, which is an incredibly cool concept. But today's guest is Adam Voss from Surreal Events, who appeared on my radar when I first read about their browser-based pixel-streamed 3D virtual events platform, where audiences can experience fully customizable and unparalleled digital experiences. And the company provides clients with different levels of storytelling, game design and multiplayer participant immersion, and something that reimagines and redefines the human condition and our relationship with physical distance. So I wanted to learn more about how they're bridging the possible and impossible and the physical and digital worlds to bring any event to life in any virtual environment imaginable. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Oregon so we can speak with Adam Voss about using video game tech to create adjacent applications for fan experiences and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Adam. I'm a marketing executive with a focus really on storytelling and content development, although that's kind of a pejorative term these days. But I have a lot of experience in events and kind of experience design. I'm currently the chief marketing officer at Surreal Events, and I host a podcast called 12 for 12. It's kind of a Bourdain for brands type of show.
And Surreal Events is a web-based 3D virtual environment where audience experience fully customizable and unparalleled events, which I'm really looking forward to diving into a little bit deeper now, especially because of how the last 18 months have affected the world of events. But before we get there, can I ask that you share your origin story? I mean, where did your passion for tech come from? And ultimately, what put you on this path you're on today?
Yeah, with Surreal, it became this giant pivot, right? In March of 2020, COVID really just proved to be that 100-year pandemic that we'd all been putting in film narratives, but never really thinking it could happen. And at the same time, the total available market for video games was huge. I have a 16-year-old son. He's an avid gamer. As an event company, the other company that I've been working for called Echelon Design, we have been doing event production and video production, both linear and nonlinear. And we'd started working with Unreal Engine as a code set to get really rich photoreal renders of room environments for the home and lifestyle sector. And we had been doing product shots as well. So we had this experience of exposure and a core of developers that we could, use this technology with. And we decided that in March with our pivot that, our event business had been decimated. And the only way that we could survive and thrive is if we created a platform that was unlike anything that had been in the market. It wasn't a broadcast or web-based, kind of Zoom technology, but was more of an immersive tech. And again, just kind of watching my son play video games, that to me was the big aha moment. If my son could have all of his buddies in, Red Dead Redemption, sitting around a fire, hanging out, dressed as cowboys or villains, they could, that we could do it too. We could have interactions, and, Gen Xers like myself or baby boomers, in fact, could sit in the environment and explore and choose their own adventure with an avatar.
I was just about to say, forget our sons for a moment. I think there's got to be room for a couple of Gen Xers here to sit around a campfire like cowboys in Red Dead Redemption. You've won me over straight away.
It's interesting. The early adopters are, the natives to gameplay. But once you start you go through the looking glass, and there's a certain level of verisimilitude where you forget you're playing. And that is the moment where the dopamine hits and you're all of a sudden like thrilled to just explore. And so that was kind of our pivot point. I mean, I look at like what solutions are on the market, and we're using Zoom right now for a voice-to-voice interface. That's awesome. And then you can add different apps to Zoom, or you can have different camera functions, and there's now broadcast technologies where we can do motion capture, and we could cut to one studio and cut to another studio. But no one was doing a video game as a technology to bring in kind of B2B events, and that's how we started. And we quickly learned. We launched our beta in March of 2021. But we quickly learned about April of this year that we really needed to focus more on fan experiences, on longer term engagements that weren't just like 1, 2, or 3 day events, and that there weren't just interactions in the game, but there were transactions. Because that's how you make money, and that's how companies that's how they see the ROI on the stuff.
Yeah, and I used to work in the event industry. I've got a lot of friends that were obviously lost their jobs over the last year, and it's incredibly harsh to see. And I'm curious, though, for people hearing about Surreal for the very first time, can you tell them a little bit more about how it bridges the possible and the impossible and the physical and digital worlds to ultimately bring any event to life in any virtual environment imaginable? Because it's incredibly cool what you're doing here.
Well, I mean, I think the future is hybrid. I don't think we'll ever go back to 100% on-site live, be it in an office environment or at a trade show or a conference. I think never again will humans knowingly accept the limitations of physics, right? Time, location, even cost or carbon footprint when it comes to really experiencing events, or a brand that you're a fan of, or a conference that you go to every year. And like Fortnite, which is another Epic Games Unreal Engine based game, we look at live sports, we look at entertainment, and we look at Surreal and retail, and we look at Surreal as kind of a first of its kind platform that provides digital twins. And this phrase digital twin has been around for a while, but I mean, by that, we mean like the facsimile in Unreal Engine of an environment that could exist or could be a version of that environment, right? Where you can locomote, you can walk around, and I can see you, I can see your avatar, and we have photoreal faces, to our avatar and our bodies. So you recognize me. I see the information of your avatar, like your name. I can click on you and get whatever public facing information you want to share. So could be, your work address, your website, your email, all of that. And I have the ability to voice with you, or we can sit down. It opens up a video window and we can have a dialogue there. I can teleport to different areas with you. I can follow you. We can go to private, meeting areas. We can go to demo areas where I can showcase a product with you, and then you can pick it up and, you manipulate it, extrude it. And so, I mean, anything that you can do in the real world, Surreal means to create a game-like virtual experience of that, a second screen engagement to physical venues and any kind of experience you can build. So it's one of those things, like if you can imagine it, and there's, it's just art plus interaction, and we can create it.
I completely agree with you on the need for hybrid events. If we look back to just 18 months ago, I think every single event out there, wherever it is in the world, was limited to the four walls of the venue, and the amount of tickets that they could sell was, again, limited to the capacity of that venue. So there is this clear need to get that message outside of that and bust out those walls and get people from all over the world attending, and also cut down on travel and things like that. So it's got to go that way, hasn't it? And that's got to be good for the events world, especially as it's looking to bounce back.
Well, and it has to go that way organically. It has to be dynamic, but you can't force it. I mean, the thing that we really focused on initially was that as a game, it was really social first, so that it was easy for me to, use the AWSD or arrow keys or my mouse. It was easy for me to think about, okay, this is how I navigate. This is what I'm doing. And that I can have pop-up experiences and accidental collisions with you or anyone that I see in the space. That I think is the big difference. And hybrid events now, I mean, you're going to look for the next few years. I think event populations are going to be lower. Traffic is going to be lower. And, we're going to have a bigger reach globally because more people will be able to attend with platforms like this.
And I would imagine venues and promoters, they've got to step up to the game pretty quickly to adapt and evolve to these new changes, haven't they?
Yeah, it's really, you have to have a strategy now, and you have to think, who is your audience? And, you have to promote events even more than you did. I mean, typically you think about live events, part of the promotion is the venue. If you want to go to Mobile World Congress, guess what? We're going to go to Spain. If you want to go to CES, great, we're going to be in Vegas. But, now you've got to create an appeal that's beyond the location and the restaurants and the beaches. You've got to think about, why is somebody going to spend their time here? And, we've been staring at our screens for a year and a half. So if it's going to be an experience, it's got to be interesting and it's got to be new. We tried to do that with, so for instance, with a video game, you're in the game, right? Well, with Surreal, what we've tried to do is create as much of that binary kind of experience. So like if you go into a food court in Surreal or a restaurant, you can order from, a national provider here in the United States, and then it could deliver your food through Uber Eats or Postmates. Trying to get those kind of experiences. Same thing, like, we've had clients on the B2B side where, they've done, the sommeliers, or they've done, the mixologists, giving a presentation. So you have that avatar up there, and the avatar's got their shaker and their glass, and we ship, through the client a cocktail kit, and those things. I mean, they do work. There's no replacement of real events, but I do think, like, when you can immerse somebody, and you can, again, I use that word verisimilitude, you can get them to think, wow, I'm in the experience. It's really fun just running around, and I'm not a gamer at all, and so it's been kind of a new learning curve for me as well.
And one of the things that stands out for me is that you provide clients with a different level of storytelling, game design, and multiplayer participant immersion, one that almost imagines and redefines that human condition and our relationship with physical distance. But just to bring to life everything that we're talking about today, do you have any use cases that would just help people understand how it could work in their world too?
Yeah. So we did an event over Memorial Day with Red Bull, and Red Bull basically had partnered with PlayStation 5 to do these they called it the Red Bull Capture Point competition, and it was basically in leveraging Surreal. Red Bull fans could explore an entirely custom virtual art gallery, and the gallery was showcasing finalists of this competition, and it was all about getting Sony PlayStation gamers that are doing, kind of capture point photography in the game. So like, moments that really matter to them. Maybe they achieved something great in the game, or there was some cool dragon that was eating them or whatever it was, they could upload their favorite photos for this competition. And then we basically created a Guggenheim type museum, and each of these spaces, each of the exhibit rooms had a different theme. And you could go through there. There was a DJ, and there was dancing, and beautiful art, and really interesting rooms. And one room didn't, it was a zero gravity room, so you could bounce around. And another room had a giant kind of vortex in the middle of the floor, and it would suck you in. It would teleport you to a different area. You could drink Red Bull throughout the environment, and if you drank enough Red Bull, you'd actually get wings. And then instead of having to walk or run, you could fly places. It was, again, it was a game within a game. And so for us, they wanted to curate these great photos. And this is the thing about gaming. I mean, the gaming is art, and it's amazing. It's art in motion, and it gives the gamer the ability to choose their own adventure and figure out kind of what they want to unlock and see. And so, these PS4 and PS5 titles, were all over, like the art from these titles were all over the gallery. It was really cool. And, we had the ability to have the avatar clothes that you're wearing, that you select. You could put it in a cart, like a Shopify cart, and you could have it, you purchase it and have it sent to you. So there are a lot of things like that, again, using a video game to bring an experience to life. And this was great because the early adopters, the gamers, were the ones who were running around.
Wow, incredibly cool. And there's, on this same subject, there's a lot of talk about the Metaverse at the moment. And are we heading towards a Ready Player? What's that film?
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One lifestyle. Yeah, it seems we're heading towards that. And recently, the NVIDIA CEO, he recently revealed plans to create a virtual copy of the entire world, the entire physical world, and put it in digital format. And of course, Roblox, the immersive gaming and co-experience platform, is also building its metaverse. But it's an incredibly exciting space right now. But for people that are unfamiliar with what I'm just rambling on about there, how would you define the metaverse for someone hearing about it for the first time?
Well, it's funny. The term actually comes from digital antiquity. I mean, it was coined by the writer Neil Stephenson in Snow Crash. I think it was like a 90s novel. And then it was really reimagined as the Oasis, as you just mentioned, in the Ernst Cline novel Ready Player One. I think, to me, the metaverse is the visceral future of the internet and our digital identities. I think, especially with Gen Z, it's all about community. It's all about engagement. It's all about authenticity. As a marketer, that's like a word that, I used to work for Accenture, and we would just crap that word out. But I think, the Gen Z folks, they have so much care and concern about social justice and the future of just, the human condition. So for me, I think the metaverse is a place where, we can experience with more equity and equality our ability to, to get around, to shop, to meet, it's hard to put into words. I mean, I think that the Ready Player One paradigm that was visualized by Spielberg is kind of an interesting idea. I mean, like if we were all avatars in a digital or virtual world, and the NVIDIA example is pretty interesting. If there was a replica of planet Earth in Unreal Engine or another gaming engine, and you could walk through it, at what point would you want to remove the looking glass, right? So, right now computers are played through gaming computers, or, you could have the actual gaming units, but there's a screen. If we're going to wear Tesla bodysuits or haptic gloves and visors and, have treadmills, I mean, that's a lot of gear. I don't know if we'll go down that rabbit hole, but I do think the next level of the metaverse is taking all of these visceral experiences that we're having as gamers and putting them like right into our frame. So there's more of a VR aspect. But I do think it's what the internet will be. I mean, right now we have digital wallets. I have a feeling that the wallet is, it's not us. It doesn't represent us. It's just where we store our financial information. But if we as an avatar could go through the world and we could, have different experiences from, the wherever we are, from the, the safety of our pandemic bubble or our own home. I think that's kind of where we're going. I think it's going to take a lot of time. The metaverse won't be built in a day. And I think it's going to be, the next at least 50 to 100 years to get there.
Whoa, 50 to 100 years. I've been waiting for a hoverboard for I don't know how long. What about my haptic feedback suit? Are you going to tell me I'm not going to get to wear one?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. I think it's going to take some time to, just getting into that kind of hardware cost. There's a lot that has to happen, but I mean, to incorporate gaming engines like Unreal in creating the metaverse, that is happening now. And you see, what the rise of cryptocurrencies and NFTs and things built on the blockchain, that's all converging. And I think we are going to see a lot more metaversal type experiences that will be built in silos. What we want to do, the future of Surreal as a company, phase 3 for us, is create tools and automation sets that you can actually go in, kind of like what Manticore is doing right now for game development. You can go in and you can build your own environment. And we give companies and agencies and makers the technology and tools to go in and do it without having to have high level knowledge of the code base and all of that stuff. So I don't know. I think, your guess is as good as mine, but I do think the future of the metaverse is going to be kind of the future of the internet.
And as a fellow Gen Xer, you probably remember the 1984 Olympics as well, where the guy flew in on a jetpack. Man, I think my life's one big disappointment looking back at everything I was looking forward to.
Yeah, the jetpack and Mary Lou Retton, those are like the two moments I remember. And I think, some technology is just not going to happen. But, if you have enough, right now, the total available market for gaming is according to an Accenture survey that came out a few months ago, is north of $300 billion. And I would say that estimate is probably low.
Yeah.
Gaming is such a ubiquitous way for communication, celebration, collaboration, achievement. And right now, the achievement system of games, if you put that into that kind of corporate paradigm of profit and loss, you're going to make a lot of money. People don't realize this, but the average 17 to 25-year-old per month spends about $100 in microtransactions on games.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. A lot spend more on their digital clothing than their real clothing.
Right. And it smells better,
Oh man, but I do still, although I'm aging, I'm still clinging on to my past, and I do still play the games. I'm halfway through. I'm a little bit late for the younger listeners out there, but I'm halfway through The Last of Us 2 at the moment. And when you hear the sign of a trophy unlocking or an achievement, it's a sweet sound, isn't it?
It is. Again, it's that kind of dopamine hit. It's like when you see a new level or you see beautiful art. I mean, that's the thing that inspires me about, what game developers are doing now is they're creating real worlds and unreal worlds that are absolutely gorgeous. And, it's really fun. I've seen, we did an event for Fiat Chrysler. So they're called Stellantis now. And they had an intern event. They brought all their interns in. And what was amazing about seeing this is we didn't do any tutorials for the interns, but we trained all of the staff. And all the staff were in their 40s and 50s. All the interns, in their early 20s, they needed no instruction. They had no problem figuring out how to do things. And in fact, they were so comfortable that they wanted to hang out, afterwards. And the next thing I know, I was kind of the de facto MC, and I just turned into the DJ, and we started DJing. There was like a huge dance party in the middle of this main hub of this conference. And I just thought, these are avatars dancing. These are people sitting on laptops and desktop computers in different places, having this shared experience. How cool is that? So I do think, you and I, computers happened when we were, in elementary school. And for these kids, they've never known a world without.
Yeah, it's incredibly cool and it's exciting where we're heading as well. And it's often said there's no I in Metaverse, and it's something that we all need to build together. So how are you doing your part? What kind of role do you see Surreal events playing in that?
I think, one is introductory. I think getting more brands and businesses and companies, just giving them the information, knowing that this is a possibility, allowing them to see the results, allowing them to play, allowing them to understand that there is an actual return on investment here that grows the more you invest. I think the other thing is just seeing what we can do. I mean, this is new for us as well. So it's like, being able to stretch to doing bigger and cooler things. Right now, we're working with an American baseball team. I can't tell you which one, but we're building a digital twin of their stadium. I mean, can you imagine? Like, you start with like a CAD scan, or you Matterport scan of the stadium, and how detailed it is, and the history, and all the things that you can do. It's really cool. And I've always been like, as a marketer, one of my favorite things to say is fans build brands. I mean, because you're never going to grow something unless there is a real, genuine feeling of, I love that thing. And with American sports teams, there is so much fervor. And same with the UK sports teams. I mean, can you imagine creating, the Manchester United pitch and all of its beauty, and you can see each piece of grass blowing in the wind, and having the ability to go into the clubhouse, or having the ability to order a beer from the snack shop and have it delivered to your house. These are things that I think make people giddy. Finding exclusive merchandise, like unlocking Easter eggs, having your favorite player come to center field and talk to you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's such a great point you make there. And I've had on this podcast Manchester United and Real Madrid in separate interviews, and they were both facing the same challenge of each week they've got the nice problem of trying, or they used to back in the day, had the nice problem of getting 80 to 90,000 people into a stadium on match day. But really, they had millions of people all around the world wanting to watch that same game, and it's how you serve that audience. So there's clearly a need for that. And I think we should also highlight, especially with video games, I think it was last year, it was mentioned, I think it was this year's E3 that they said that last year the video game industry made more than music and movies combined. I think it was something like 57 billion or something like that. And it just shows you how huge the industry is now, especially with the rise of esports when you throw that into the mix as well. But we're already there, really. But what excites you about the future and that moment where that metaverse that we're talking about here enters the mainstream? Because it's only a matter of time, isn't it?
The metaverse is multiplayer. Think about this. Like when we watch movies, we watch our favorite Netflix shows. These are singular. It's a transmission model.
Yeah.
Now when you're in the metaverse, it's a dialogue. It's the reason that games and esports are so huge is it's not just playing as a single player going through the experience. It's having that experience shared with your friends, your family, other people from across the world. So, I mean, the big thing for us is, yes, the possibilities are truly limitless, but the reach is totally limitless. I mean, the idea that, we have our markets and we have our industries and our demographics for our audience and our customers. But, the using this technology allows you to go so far out of those traditional boundaries that you thought you had to you had to bifurcate your customers for this or that or this, but I feel like for us, segment, I think for us, the big thing is just getting more people into an experience and having them share the experience, because that aha moment makes you realize, well, one, this is super fun. Two, there are other ways to experience virtual that are more inclusive, immersive, and truly gamified. It's like if you're playing and having fun, then you don't feel like you're just sitting and being bored by another, talking head in a podcast, not like us, of course, but this very moment. But I think it's inspiring to see what will happen. And the other thing is game development. All of the kids that are playing right now, my son included, they love this stuff. They love art and they love the technology. And again, as they start developing their own worlds and environments, this is going to be, again, very, very second nature to them. You know what I mean?
And how do you see video game tech being used and leveraged to create adjacent applications for those fan experiences that we're talking about here? Because that's how you're going to have to reach these audiences, isn't it?
Yeah. So again, you go for the IP that they love already. So that's kind of why fan experiences for sports. You've got your American football and your British football. You've got your baseball. You've got live music. Travis Scott, made $20 million in Fortnite, in early 2020. And that type of thing is so amazing because the fans are going there and they're creating complete, bespoke, beautiful environments. And the performers are really into it because it's a completely unique channel. I know Ariana Grande is now doing a concert shortly. But I think for us, the retail will be a real big draw. I think when you see, it'll probably start with smaller, kind of, more New York and London hip boutique brands, and then luxury brands, and then you're going to get, mainstream brands. I once asked my son, he was playing Grand Theft Auto, and I said, "Oh, you can go into the store and you can buy stuff." He's like, "Yeah." And he took me into a store, and the racks and the clothing, everything looks so cool. And I just thought, well, why don't they just make this a Gap? And he goes, "Well, Dad, because they don't want to get blood on the clothes." And I thought, that's pretty amazing. But they would, right? If it wasn't a first-person shooter and you were in a stolen car, the Gap would definitely have an environment in there. So the adjacencies right now, I mean, as a business, the possibilities are really, they are unlimited. For us, the big adoption for brands and companies is just to get them to take the chance on this. The big cost in this is the art, of course, because, it does take time to produce really beautiful photoreal art in the engine, and then the servers. And as we have used, more and more servers throughout the last year and a half, those costs are actually coming down as more servers come on market. Although there is I've heard a major semiconductor shortage these days. So, but as those costs come down, it's going to be even more, accessible. And that's why when we made Surreal, we wanted to make sure that it was browser based. There was no heavy app. It was pixel streamed. that you could stream a stream in the app. So like if you wanted to, or in the game. So if you were, at a plenary session or a breakout session, you could actually, fire an FTMP feed to the screen, and you could be watching again from a studio or from wherever. It could be recorded content. It could be anything. And I think, that to me, that's the future, is accessibility, the extended reach, and the ability to do the transactions that you're doing now, but do them as your avatar, and being able to like experience things as kind of a meta-human. That's a lot more fun than just going to thegap.com and scrolling down.
And what about you guys? What's your grand vision for Surreal? Where do you see this heading, or what excites you about where you're heading?
There's a big axiom that the CEO of Surreal and I have had for the last 8 years. And it's, there's the fake it until you make it. Ours is make it until you make it. The metaverse won't be built in a day, but what excites me the most is the process of making it. And I think that in itself is kind of the destination. It's just the more we make, the more environments, the more we see people kind of glowing from those hits of dopamine where they're like, this is amazing. I didn't realize that we could even do this. Life is a game. And I think the more time we have to play, the more excited, we become. So I don't know. I think for us, it's allowing other people to make their environments, automating. That's our grand vision. We're in a Series A round raise right now, so we're trying to bring some people together to help us do this, and it's been exciting just to have a huge pivot from doing live events and live production and video production, and then here we are creating these metaversal experiences, leveraging a gaming engine. It's the whole thing's been exciting, and it's nerve-wracking, but it's a journey.
Oh, man. Well, I've loved chatting with you today. We started the conversation talking about your origin story, but I'm now going to finish by asking you, what was the soundtrack to your origin story? Is there a particular song or piece of music that has accompanied you throughout your career? It could be Red Dead Redemption theme tune if you want, but is there any song that means anything to you?
It's going to sound incredibly dating, but, and it's also a Red reference, but I love the song Red Barchetta by Rush. And I love the fact that like it's a journey, and it's a simple one. It's taking out your uncle's, red race car and racing down the dirt street and just, letting your hair out and driving with all abandon. I think that's the thing that, all entrepreneurs and small businesses have to embrace, is the unknown is sometimes thrilling, and you just have to push the pedal to the metal and see what happens.
Man, sounds like playing GTA too. But before I let you go, for anyone listening that would like to find out more information around Surreal events and the work you're doing, or even contact your team and find out a little bit more about how they can get involved and work with you, what's the best starting point?
Yeah, so it's surrealevents.com, or you can send us an email at hello@surrealevents.com.
Well, I've loved chatting with you today. I feel like we could have chatted for hours. We spoke at length before we even started recording. So if there is a tech conference, if they open back up in the US, hopefully we can meet in person, talk about jetpacks, hoverboards, teleportation and robots. I think we'll chat for hours. But more than anything, just thank you for taking the time to come on here and share your story today.
Thanks for having me, Neil. I've really enjoyed it.
How cool was that? I mean, I just love Surreal's pivot from virtual events and interactions to brand experiences and transactions. But my big question to you is, how are you rethinking your events? Whether you're a promoter, whether you're a venue, Whatever it is, I'd love to hear more about how the creation of digital and fan experiences are completely being transformed by technology. And there is a seat for you here on the podcast to share your story, insights, experiences on how the event industry is going to bounce back. So as always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, @Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Right, I'm going to go search for a haptic feedback suit ready for the Metaverse Live, but more than anything, just a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.